Breaking cruise alert. Thousands of trips canceled with little warning. You've been counting down the days. Bags are packed, your out of office is set, and you're ready to finally board that dream cruise you booked months ago. Then your phone buzzes. One email. 5 words that gut you. Your cruise has been canceled. No apology that feels real. No clear plan to make it right. Just a vague promise of a refund that might take months or a credit you didn't ask for. And here's what makes it worse. This is happening to thousands of passengers right now, and most have no idea it could happen to them until it's too late. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the cruise cancellation crisis that cruise lines are desperately trying to downplay. We'll expose the fine print they're hiding, the refund games they're playing, and the 9 critical things you need to know to protect yourself and your hard-earned vacation money. If you're planning a cruise in the next year, hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to learn could save you thousands of dollars in a vacation disaster. Let's dive in. Number 1, the cancellation clause you never read. When you book a cruise, you're clicking, "I agree" to a contract that's often 40 pages of legal language designed by cruise line lawyers. And buried in that contract is a clause so powerful, it basically gives the cruise line permission to cancel your trip for almost any reason with shockingly little accountability. Here's the truth. Most passengers never discover until it's too late. Cruise lines reserve the right to cancel sailings for what they call force majeure events. That sounds reasonable, right? Acts of God, hurricanes, wars. But here's the kicker. Former cruise line legal staff have revealed that the definition of force majeure in these contracts is incredibly broad. It includes mechanical failures, labor strikes, port closures, even itinerary changes that make the cruise commercially impractical. That last phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting. One guest booked a 10-day Mediterranean cruise with Royal Caribbean. 3 weeks before departure, the cruise line canceled the entire sailing, citing operational challenges at 2 ports. The passenger never got a real explanation, just a generic email and an offer of a future cruise credit. When she pushed for a cash refund, it took 87 days to arrive. Here's what you need to know. According to maritime law experts, once you've signed that contract, the cruise line holds nearly all the power. They can cancel with as little as 24 hours notice in some cases, and your only guaranteed recourse is a refund of what you paid. Not your flights, not your hotel, not your time off work, just the cruise fare. And even that refund, it's often issued as a credit first, forcing you to fight for actual cash. The fix: before you book, take 10 minutes to read the cancellation and refund policy section of the contract. Look for phrases like, "at the cruise line's sole discretion," or "non-refundable deposits." If you see those, understand what you're signing. And here's the insider move. Book through a travel agent who specializes in cruises. They can often negotiate better protections, or at least help you fight back if things go south. Number 2, the refund versus credit trap. So your cruise just got canceled. You're frustrated, disappointed, but you figure at least you'll get your money back quickly, right? Think again. What happens next is one of the cruise industry's dirtiest open secrets, and it's left thousands of passengers stuck in financial limbo for months. Here's how the game works. When a cruise line cancels your trip, their first move is almost always to offer you a future cruise credit instead of a cash refund. They'll dress it up with phrases like enhanced value or bonus onboard credit, making it sound like you're getting a deal. One passenger reported that after Carnival canceled her Alaska cruise, they offered her a future cruise credit worth 125% of what she paid. Sounds great, right? But here's the catch. That credit expires in 12 months. It's non-transferable, and it can only be used on select sailings, often during low-demand seasons when the ship is half empty anyway. She wanted her $3,400 back to rebook a different vacation. It took 4 months of calls and emails to finally get a check. Why do cruise lines push credits so hard? Former finance department staff admit it's about cash flow. When they issue a credit instead of a refund, they keep your money on their books. You become a future liability instead of a current expense. And here's the really sneaky part. A shocking percentage of future cruise credits, estimated at 30% to 40%, never get used. They expire, and the cruise line just made $3,000 or $5,000 for doing absolutely nothing. So here's your battle plan. The moment you receive a cancellation notice, reply immediately in writing, not over the phone, demanding a full cash refund to your original payment method. Use the exact phrase, "full refund," as required under your contract terms. Keep every email. If they push back, file a dispute with your credit card company within 60 days of the cancellation. And if you paid more than 60 days ago, file a complaint with the Federal Maritime Commission. It's free, it's online, and it puts real pressure on the cruise line to pay you back fast. Number 3, travel insurance isn't the safety net you think it is. Most smart travelers buy travel insurance thinking they're covered if something goes wrong. And if your cruise gets canceled, you assume you're protected, right? Big mistake. Here's the brutal truth about cruise travel insurance that agents often don't explain clearly. Most standard policies do not cover cruise line cancellations unless they meet very specific conditions. And those conditions are far narrower than you'd ever imagine. Let's break this down. Former travel insurance claims adjusters reveal that the #1 reason cruise cancellation claims get denied is something called foreseen events. If there were any rumors, news reports, or even social media posts about potential issues with the cruise line, port, or region before you bought your policy, the insurance company can argue you should have known better. One couple bought trip insurance in January for a June cruise to the Eastern Caribbean. In March, a hurricane damaged one of the ports. In May, the cruise line canceled the sailing. The insurance company denied their claim, stating that hurricane season is a foreseen risk in the Caribbean, and they should have purchased a cancel for any reason policy instead. Here's what's even worse. Most policies only cover cruise line cancellations caused by specific named perils, natural disasters that make the ship physically unable to sail, a mechanical breakdown that the cruise line can prove, or a serious medical issue that affects you personally. If the cruise line cancels for vague operational reasons or itinerary changes, your standard insurance won't pay a dime. So what does work? Only one type of policy offers real protection: cancel for any reason, also called CFR insurance. It costs about 40% more than standard trip insurance, but it allows you to cancel for literally any reason and get back 50% to 75% of your non-refundable costs. The catch? You have to buy it within 14 to 21 days of making your first trip payment, and you must insure 100% of your prepaid, non-refundable trip costs. Here's the move. If you're booking a cruise more than 90 days out, or during hurricane season, or on a new ship that hasn't sailed yet, always buy CFAR insurance. Yes, it's pricier, but when your $8,000 cruise gets canceled and everyone else is fighting for credits, you'll walk away with at least $4,000 in cash. No questions asked. Number 4, the warning signs your cruise is doomed. What if you could predict a cancellation before it happens? Former crew members and industry insiders say there are red flags you can spot weeks, even months in advance that scream your cruise is in trouble. And paying attention to these signs could save you from booking a disaster in the first place. Here's the first warning sign: sudden, deep discounts. If a cruise that was selling for $1,500 per person suddenly drops to $599, that's not a deal. That's desperation. It means the ship is drastically underbooked and the cruise line is scrambling to fill cabins. Underbooked ships are the first to get canceled because they're not profitable. One travel agent shared that she watched a 7-day Western Caribbean cruise on Norwegian drop in price 4 times in 6 weeks. 2 weeks before departure, Norwegian canceled the entire sailing, citing necessary maintenance. Passengers who booked early paid $2,200. Passengers who booked late paid $700. Everyone got the same generic refund offer. Warning sign number 2, frequent itinerary changes. If the ports keep shifting or excursions keep getting swapped out, that's a huge red flag that something isn't working behind the scenes. It could be political instability, port fees the cruise line doesn't want to pay, or mechanical issues they're trying to hide. A guest booked a 10-day cruise to the Greek islands. Over 3 months, the itinerary changed 5 times. First, they swapped Athens for a different port, then they cut 2 islands entirely. Finally, 3 weeks before sailing, they canceled the whole cruise, claiming unforeseen port restrictions. Passengers later discovered the ship had a propulsion issue the cruise line knew about for weeks. Warning sign number 3, the ship is brand new or freshly renovated. It sounds counterintuitive, but new ships and recently refurbished ships have the highest cancellation rates in the industry. Why? Because construction delays, safety inspections, and sea trials often run over schedule. One highly anticipated new ship from a major cruise line was delayed 4 times, affecting over 15,000 passengers across multiple sailings. Some passengers had booked a year in advance. The cruise line kept pushing the date back in 30-day increments, leaving travelers in limbo, unable to cancel without penalty, but also unable to plan. Here's how to protect yourself. Before you book, Google the ship name plus delays or cancellations. Check cruise forums like Cruise Critic for real-time passenger reports. And here's the ultimate insider move. Wait until the ship has completed at least 3 successful sailings before you book. Let someone else be the guinea pig. Number 5. Your legal rights are weaker than you think. When your cruise gets canceled, you might assume you have serious legal protections. After all, this is a contract, right? You paid money, they didn't deliver, so you're entitled to compensation. Unfortunately, the reality of maritime law is far harsher than most passengers ever imagine, and it heavily favors the cruise lines. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Almost every cruise contract includes a clause requiring binding arbitration in a specific location, usually Miami, and under maritime law, which is completely different from consumer protection laws on land. One passenger from Oregon had her cruise canceled and wanted to sue for her lost airfare and hotel costs. The contract required her to travel to Miami, hire a maritime lawyer, and argue her case in front of an arbitrator, not a judge. The estimated legal costs? Over $15,000. Her total losses? $4,200. She never pursued it, but here's what makes this even more frustrating. Under U.S. maritime law, cruise lines are not required to compensate you for consequential damages. That means if your cruise is canceled and you lose your non-refundable flights, your prepaid hotels, your time off work, or even that non-refundable wedding venue you booked for a destination wedding at sea, the cruise line has zero legal obligation to cover any of it. They only have to refund the cruise fare itself. A couple planning a vow renewal on a cruise spent $12,000 on the sailing, plus another $8,000 on flights, hotels, and a photographer. The cruise line canceled 10 days before departure. They refunded the $12,000 in cruise fare after 90 days. The other $8,000? Completely gone. The cruise line's response? Not our responsibility. So what can you actually do? First, document everything. Save every email, every phone call summary, every promise made. Second, file complaints with the Federal Maritime Commission and the Better Business Bureau. While these won't get you money directly, they create a paper trail. Third, and this is critical, if you paid with a credit card, dispute the charge if the cruise line refuses a timely cash refund. Credit card companies often have more power than you do. And finally, share your story publicly on social media and review sites. Cruise lines hate bad PR, and sometimes public pressure is the only thing that gets results. Number 6, the worst times to book a cruise. Not all cruises are created equal when it comes to cancellation risk. Former crew and travel agents agree there are certain times of year and certain itineraries that get canceled far more often than others. And if you know when to avoid booking, you can dramatically reduce your chances of getting burned. Here's the data most passengers never see. Hurricane season, which runs from June through November in the Atlantic and Caribbean, accounts for over 60% of all weather-related cruise cancellations. But here's the twist. The cruise lines don't cancel early. They wait until the last possible moment, often 48 to 72 hours before departure, leaving passengers scrambling. One family booked a Caribbean cruise departing in September, peak hurricane season. A major storm formed 5 days before their cruise. For 3 days, the cruise line said nothing. Finally, 36 hours before departure, they canceled. The family had already flown to Miami, checked into their hotel, and taken time off work. The cruise line refunded the fare. The family lost $2,800 in flights and hotels. Warning sign number 2, booking the first or last sailing of the season in Alaska, Europe, or other seasonal routes. Cruise lines often overextend, and if bookings are weak or weather is bad, they'll quietly cancel those fringe sailings. The people who get hurt the most? Early bookers who locked in deals a year in advance. And here's the final red flag. Booking repositioning cruises. These are one-way trips where the ship moves from one region to another, like Miami to Barcelona. They're cheap because they're hard to fill. And because they're hard to fill, they're also the first to get cut when the cruise line needs to shuffle its fleet. The smart booking strategy? Avoid hurricane-prone regions from August through October. If you must cruise during that window, buy CFAR insurance. Skip the first and last sailings of any season. And if you're booking a repositioning cruise, treat it as high risk and plan accordingly. Number 7, how to get your money back faster. Let's say the worst has happened. Your cruise is canceled and now you're staring at a long, frustrating fight to get your money back. Here's the step-by-step strategy former travel agents and consumer advocates say works best to speed up your refund and avoid getting trapped in credit limbo. Step 1, respond immediately. The moment you get that cancellation email, Reply within 24 hours in writing. Use email, not the phone, so you have a record. State clearly, I am requesting a full cash refund to my original form of payment within 30 days, as required under your terms and conditions. Don't ask. Demand. Be polite but firm. Step 2. Escalate fast. If you don't get a response within 72 hours, call the cruise line and ask to speak to a supervisor in the refunds department. Get their name and employee ID. Document the call. If they offer a credit, say this exact phrase: I do not accept a future cruise credit. I require a full cash refund as stated in your policy. Step 3. Leverage your credit card. If you paid by credit card and the cruise line is stalling, file a chargeback dispute. You typically have 60 to 120 days from the cancellation to file. Provide all your documentation, the cancellation notice, your refund requests, and any responses from the cruise line. Credit card companies side with consumers more often than you'd think. Step 4. File a formal complaint. Go to the Federal Maritime Commission's website and file a complaint. It's free, it's fast, and it creates a federal record. Cruise lines hate FMC complaints because too many can trigger investigations. Even if it doesn't get you money directly, it puts pressure on the company. And here's the final move. Go public. Post your story on the cruise line's Facebook page, tag them on Twitter, and leave detailed reviews on TripAdvisor and Cruise Critic. Cruise lines monitor social media obsessively, and public complaints often get resolved faster than private ones. One passenger posted her refund struggle on Facebook, tagging the cruise line. Within 48 hours, a customer service manager reached out directly and issued a full refund. Number 8. What frequent cruisers do differently. While most passengers panic when they get a cancellation notice, experienced cruisers have a totally different playbook, and the strategies they use can turn a disaster into an opportunity or at least minimize the damage. Here's what the pros do that most people never think of. First, they book with flexibility built in. Seasoned cruisers avoid booking flights until the cruise line's final payment deadline, which is usually 90 days before departure. Why? Because if the cruise gets canceled before final payment, you can walk away with zero penalty. But if you've already locked in non-refundable airfare, you're stuck. One veteran cruiser books only refundable hotel rates, even if they cost $20 more per night. She treats it as cancellation insurance. When her cruise got canceled 2 weeks out, she canceled the hotel with no fee and rebooked a different vacation entirely. Second, frequent cruisers obsessively track their bookings. They set Google alerts for the ship name, check the cruise line's news page weekly, and monitor cruise forums for any whispers of trouble. If they see red flags, they cancel early and rebook something safer, even if it means paying a small penalty. It's better to lose $100 now than $3,000 later. Third, and this is huge, experienced cruisers always have a backup plan. They identify alternate cruise dates, alternate destinations, or even alternate vacation ideas before they ever make final payment. That way, if the cruise gets canceled, they're not starting from zero. They can pivot fast and save their vacation. And here's the ultimate insider secret. Veteran cruisers know that cruise lines are more generous with compensation if you've cruised with them before. Loyalty status, even at the lowest tier, often unlocks better refund terms, priority rebooking, or bonus credits that aren't offered to first-time cruisers. Number 9, the one move that changes everything. After all the warnings, the fine print, and the refund battles, here's the single most important thing you can do to protect yourself from cruise cancellations, and it's something 90% of cruisers still don't do. Never ever pay the full balance early. Here's why this is a game changer. Cruise lines offer early payment discounts, sometimes $50 or $100 off if you pay in full 6 months before sailing. It sounds like a deal. It's a trap. Once you paid in full, you lose almost all your leverage. If the cruise gets canceled, you're now fighting for a refund of thousands of dollars. But if you've only paid a deposit, usually $250 to $500 per person, the maximum you can lose is that deposit. And in many cases, if the cruise line cancels, not you, even the deposit is refundable. One couple paid $6,800 in full for an anniversary cruise 8 months before departure. The cruise line canceled due to mechanical issues. It took 4 months and 23 phone calls to get their money back. Another couple kept their booking on a deposit only, paying just $500. When their cruise was canceled, they got the $500 back in 10 days and immediately booked a different trip. Here's the strategy. Always wait until the final payment deadline, typically 90 days before sailing, to pay the balance. Yes, you might miss out on a small early pay discount, but you're buying yourself flexibility, leverage, and peace of mind. And if you're really worried about a specific cruise, book it, hold it with a deposit, and then watch for warning signs. If everything looks solid at 90 days out, pay the balance. If red flags appear, cancel, get your deposit back, and walk away clean. So there you have it, the 9 critical secrets about cruise cancellations that could save your vacation and your wallet. It's not about being paranoid, it's about being prepared. The cruise industry is counting on you not knowing these strategies, not reading the fine print, and not fighting back when things go wrong. But now you know better. If this video helped you cruise smarter, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Cruise Smart so you're always ahead of the game. And drop a comment below. Have you ever had a cruise canceled? What happened? And how did the cruise line handle it? Your story could help someone else avoid the same disaster. Until next time, sail prepared, protect your money, and never stop exploring.